Alice sits on the floor of what should have been a nursery. The walls are painted soft yellow, and a white crib stands empty in the corner. She holds the photograph against her chest, tears streaming down her face. Then, with shaking hands, she lifts the hospital bracelet to her lips and whispers, "I'm sorry I only got 1 hour." Suddenly, Alice stands up. She wipes her tears with fierce determination, walks to the crib, and places the memory box gently inside it. She takes a deep breath and says out loud, "But that 1 hour changed everything." Before we continue, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share real stories about real people who've faced the unthinkable. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Now, let's go back to where this all began. For 6 years, Alice and Marcus Chen had been trying to have a baby. 6 years of disappointment, of failed IVF treatments, of watching friends announce pregnancies while they struggled in silence. They'd spent their savings on 3 rounds of IVF, 3 failures. Alice was 38 years old and starting to lose hope. And then, finally, on a cold November morning, Alice saw 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. She fell to her knees in the bathroom and sobbed, from relief, from joy, from the overwhelming feeling that maybe, just maybe, their dream was finally coming true. The first trimester was terrifying, but the baby held on. At 12 weeks, they heard the heartbeat, and Marcus cried harder than Alice had ever seen. They chose the name Daisy after Alice's grandmother. Alice threw herself into preparing. She painted the nursery yellow, assembled a white wooden crib with Marcus, and washed tiny onesies in lavender-scented detergent. She talked to Daisy constantly, telling her about the world she'd soon enter, about the family who already loved her so much. Everything was perfect. Everything was finally, beautifully perfect. And then came the 32-week ultrasound. Alice knew something was wrong immediately. The ultrasound technician, usually chatty, had gone quiet. Then she said the words that make every pregnant woman's heart stop. "I need to get the doctor." "Doctor." Rebecca Thornton entered with a kind face that couldn't hide the gravity of what she was about to say. She explained that Daisy's kidneys hadn't developed properly. Potter syndrome. Without kidneys, there was no amniotic fluid. Without amniotic fluid, Daisy's lungs couldn't develop. Even if she survived until birth, she wouldn't be able to breathe on her own. She wouldn't survive. Alice heard Marcus make a sound she'd never heard before, somewhere between a gasp and a moan. "Doctor." Thornton gave them options. Terminate now or continue and meet their daughter knowing the outcome. That night, Alice felt Daisy kick. Small, gentle movements. A reminder that right now, in this moment, her daughter was alive. "I want to meet her," Alice whispered. "I need to be her mother even if it's just for a little while." Marcus nodded, pulling Alice closer. "Then we'll love her for however long we have." At 37 weeks, Alice went into labor. The hospital had prepared a special room, away from where new mothers celebrated. Nurse Violet Santos held Alice's hand through every contraction. Marcus stood on the other side, trying desperately to be strong, but his face was wet with tears. After 36 hours of labor, at 3:47 in the morning on a Tuesday in July, Daisy was born. But there was no cry. The room was silent except for Alice's exhausted breathing and quiet sobs. They placed Daisy in Alice's arms, and time stopped. She was tiny, just 4 pounds, but perfect. Wispy blonde hair, impossibly small fingers, Marcus's nose and Alice's chin. She was beautiful. She was theirs. And then, impossibly, Daisy opened her eyes. For just a few seconds, mother and daughter looked at each other. Alice felt the entire universe compress into that moment. Those dark blue eyes seemed to see straight into Alice's soul, and Alice swore that Daisy knew that this was her mother, knew that she was loved. "Hi, baby," Alice whispered. "Hi, Daisy, it's Mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." Marcus wrapped his arms around both of them, and Nurse Violet quickly took a photo. One family photo, the only one they'd ever have. Alice held Daisy skin to skin, feeling her daughter's heartbeat against her own. Strong at first, steady and determined. Alice sang, "You Are My Sunshine," the song she'd sung to her belly every night. Marcus joined in, both pouring every ounce of love into these moments. Alice told Daisy everything she'd never get to say later. About the nursery waiting at home, about teaching her to paint and taking her to the beach, about her grandmother, who she was named after, about stars and oceans and chocolate ice cream and everything beautiful that existed. Chaplain David Morrison offered a prayer. They baptized Daisy with water from a small bowl. The hospital photographer created handprints and footprints, took photographs, and carefully cut a lock of that beautiful blonde hair. 50 minutes had passed. Alice felt it before anyone said anything. Daisy's breathing had changed. The strong little heartbeat was slowing. Nurse Violet checked gently and met Alice's eyes. It was time. "It's okay, baby girl," Alice whispered, kissing Daisy's forehead. "Mama's here. Daddy's here. We love you so much. You can rest now, sweetheart." At 58 minutes old, Daisy took her last breath in her mother's arms. They held her for 2 more minutes, neither one able to let go. Alice memorized everything: the weight of her, the smell of her skin, the way her tiny hand fit around Alice's finger. And then, because she had to, Alice kissed Daisy one final time and handed her to Nurse Violet. The drive home was torture. Walking into the house was worse. The finished nursery, ready for a baby who would never sleep there. Alice stood in the doorway and felt something inside her shatter completely. The funeral was 4 days later. The casket was so small Marcus could carry it alone. They covered it with daisies. 20 people attended, friends who didn't know what to say. A life celebrated that had barely begun. Alice's body betrayed her. 3 days later, her milk came in. She sat on the bathroom floor sobbing as she expressed milk into the sink, her body not understanding there was no one to feed. Marcus went back to work after 2 weeks. Alice couldn't get out of bed. She stopped answering calls, stopped showering, stopped eating. She just lay there holding Daisy's blanket, wishing she could go back to that hour and live it forever. 3 months after Daisy died, Marcus forced Alice to a support group for bereaved parents. In a church basement, Alice listened to others tell stories like her own. Then a woman named Jennifer Walsh spoke. She'd lost her son, Noah, 3 years ago. "Our babies' lives were short, but they were complete," Jennifer said. "They were loved every second they existed. That matters. That counts." Something shifted in Alice. She'd been thinking about everything Daisy didn't get to do. But Jennifer was right. Daisy's life hadn't been incomplete. It had been exactly what it was meant to be: 58 minutes of pure, unconditional love. That night, Alice opened the nursery door for the first time. She sat in the rocking chair and began writing letters to Daisy, telling her about her day, about how much she missed her, about how that 1 hour had been the most important hour of her life. Marcus found her there at midnight. Instead of leaving her alone like he'd been doing, he sat beside her. They talked, really talked, for the first time since Daisy died. They cried together. They held each other. They began to heal. 6 months later, Alice returned to the hospital as a volunteer. She joined the perinatal bereavement program, helping create comfort bags for other families facing loss. She assembled memory boxes, included grief resources, added handprint kits and special blankets. Alice started a nonprofit called Daisy's Hour. It provided support for families with devastating prenatal diagnoses, offered financial help with funeral costs, and advocated for better bereavement leave policies. She shared her story publicly for the first time, terrified of judgment, but knowing her voice could help others feel less alone. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of mothers reached out, women who'd suffered in silence. Alice met with them, cried with them, held space for their pain. Daisy's Hour grew quickly, helping families across 3 states. Alice and Marcus began to reconnect, their shared purpose bringing them back together. They talked about fostering, about adoption, about facing the future together, stronger for having survived the unsurvivable. 2 years after Daisy died, Alice stands at a playground watching 4-year-old Sofia Rodriguez play on the monkey bars. Their foster daughter. They've had her for 6 months and the adoption should be finalized soon. Sofia runs to Alice, breathless and grinning. "Watch me go down the slide, Mama Alice." After Sofia's 5th trip down, She notices the locket around Alice's neck. "What's in there?" Alice opens it carefully. Inside is a tiny photograph of a newborn baby and an even tinier footprint. "This is your sister Daisy," Alice explains gently. "She lives in heaven now, but she's always with us." Sophia studies the photo seriously. "Was she a baby?" "She was. She was a baby for just 1 hour, but she changed everything." Sophia accepts this and runs back to play. Alice watches her, one hand on the locket, the other shading her eyes from the sun. In 2 years, Daisy's Hour has helped over 200 families navigate the impossible journey of loving a baby they know they'll lose. The nursery has been repainted. It's Sophia's room now, decorated in purple and pink. But in one corner, on a small shelf, sits Daisy's memory box. Marcus and Alice are doing well. They go to therapy together. They talk about Daisy often, keeping her memory alive. They've learned that grief doesn't end, it just changes shape. Some days are harder than others, but they've learned to carry the weight together. On what would have been Daisy's 3rd birthday, the family visits the cemetery. Her headstone is small and white with carved daisies. It reads, "Daisy Chen, beloved daughter, 58 minutes of perfect love." Alice kneels and traces the letters. She's brought fresh daisies, which she places in the vase. Sophia helps, carefully arranging the flowers. "Hi, baby girl," Alice whispers. "Mama's here. We brought your sister to meet you." They release 3 yellow balloons and watch them float away. Sophia waves goodbye and Alice holds Marcus's hand. Someone once asked Alice if she regretted carrying Daisy to term, putting herself through that pain. Alice's answer was immediate. Never. That hour was the hardest and most precious of my life. Daisy made me a mother. She taught me that love doesn't need time, it just needs truth. Because here's what Alice knows now. Life isn't measured in years. It's measured in moments of connection, in acts of love, in the impact we have on others. Daisy lived for 58 minutes, but her ripple effect has touched hundreds of lives. Every family that Daisy's Hour helps, every mother who feels less alone. That's Daisy's legacy. Alice is a different person than she was 3 years ago, softer and stronger at the same time. She's learned to hold joy and grief in the same hand. She's learned that healing isn't about moving on. It's about moving forward while carrying love with you. As they walk back to the car, Sophia between them holding both their hands, Alice touches her locket one more time. Inside is the moment that changed everything. Alice holding Daisy, both looking at each other, love captured in a single frame. 1 hour, 58 minutes to be exact. That's all they had. But it was enough to change Alice's life forever. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like and subscribe for more real stories about love, loss, and the strength of the human spirit. Thank you for being here.